I'm John, and this is Prepper Nation. Welcome. Have you ever heard the expression? You're cool if you have, by the way. Dirty deeds done dirt cheap. You ever heard of that? So, of course, it is the name of a fantastic song, and actually, I think it's the name of an album. But we're going to talk about something a little bit different. This is prepping related. Dirty deeds done dirt cheap. We're talking about number 10 cans today. And you say, "Son, why are we talking about number 10 cans?" Well, I'd mentioned it a day or 2 ago, Ogson Farms, I think, and, at least I hope so because I brought a visual aid. And I've had a couple of people ask, "John, what do you prefer, or what would you stack if you're buying Ogson Farms for the first time?" So, most of you are familiar with what it looks like. There's a visual aid right there, a little dusty on top. Had it for a few years, but, when we say number 10 cans, this is what we're talking about. This is the brand Oxen Farms. There are other brands as well. Mountain House is another popular one, but there are other ones. You get it. Um, which varieties do I prefer? Well, I actually made a list and we're going to go down the list, but understand, son, that taste is subjective. I don't like Tootsie Rolls. Some of y'all weirdos like Tootsie Rolls. I prefer coffee over tea. People got different palates. Now, I ain't crapping on tea. I'm just saying coffee's better. We all know it. Plus, I'm cheap. We need to factor this in as well. So, most of the stuff that is on this list, it's cheap right now. It remains cheap. So I may scoot over to Amazon. I will link the stuff down below in case you're on Amazon, but occasionally, about once a month, maybe we'll check Amazon and maybe we're going after potatoes, but we see that something else is on sale instead, like a fire sale or something. So we order that instead because, again, I'm cheap. I hear people say stack what you enjoy eating. What do you and your family enjoy eating? That's what you need to stack. And I agree with that. I enjoy eating food. I do. I enjoy the concept of eating food as opposed to laying down in a starvation mode in the floor and just dying off. You know what I'm saying? So, yes, we all have preferences when it comes to food and tastes and things. But realistically, and hopefully Dynamite's in here for this one, realistically, if I'm starving to death, I'm eating squirrel. This does not mean I prefer to eat it. This does not mean I want to eat it, but I will do what I have to do. You understand? And so if you can get something for a fraction of the price, a fourth or a fifth of the price is something that you prefer, then it becomes a matter of how am I stacking it to the rafters? Am I overpaying for, let's say, eggs, or am I going with, vegetable stew here and just gonna stack it to the rafters? So that kind of stuff matters. It really does. And again, if you enjoy certain varieties or certain brands. Maybe you're not a fan of Oxen Farms. Maybe you like a different brand. Go ahead and drop that in the comments and live chat and let people know what else is out there. And also, quickly, because I've been dealing with a lot of stuff behind the scenes as it pertains to this platform that we're watching right now. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say what platform I'm on because I've been dealing with a lot of censorship, but it happens. If you enjoy the chats that we are having, please take a half a second and shoot a thumbs up and hit subscribe. This is the only way that I know that you want these chats to continue. So, without further ado, let's start with this is my Augustin Farms top 20. Now, if I do in a different brand, it would look a little bit different, but factoring in how cheap is it to stack because I'm cheap? What have I tried? What do I prefer? This kind of stuff. Number 20, cheesy broccoli soup mix. This is also a common variety in a lot of their because they sell like the bigger. I don't even know how much they cost. They were $70-ish when I bought them, $79. I think the bigger buckets, 30-day buckets. Um, Now I think they're like $150 or something because, Joe Biden, but whatever. Point is, they're in there for a reason. All right, number one, it's a cheap addition to the buckets. And number two, they're kind of popular with people that buy Augustin Farms. I mean, it is what it is. It tastes like cheesy broccoli soup when you get right down to it. Prep time is not very hard or terrible or anything like that. Number 19, diced whole egg powder. And I'm pronouncing it the way it's listed on the Zon, okay? Now I will say this. We kind of got lucky on this. My wife and a friend, we're friends with a married couple and they prep. I ain't throwing their names out here, but I know she's watching right now. Um, they kind of communicate back and forth, my wife and this lady, about what they're going to buy next, what's on sale. Sometimes she'll text my wife and say, "Hey, this is on sale right now." So the dried whole egg powder, we got a killer deal on this stuff. We bought this stuff, or my wife did rather, in bulk when it was like $22 a can. Um, it's 2 pounds, 2 pounds of dried whole egg. This stuff is up to 50 some dollars now, almost $60, I think. So, although it's on this list, it's expensive right now because in general there's a shortage and, that's going to be passed down to the consumer, right? So we really bought that at the right time and I'm glad that we did. Shout out to my wife. Number 18, cheese blend powder. We like the cheese blend powder, number 1, because it's usually not very expensive, and number 2, you can do a lot of stuff with it. It's multi-use. I look for multi-use in all of my prepping stuff, whether it's, tools and hand tools and gear, a tarp. I love a tarp, not to get sidetracked, but it's a multi-use item, stuff like this. Um, but also with foods. How many different recipes can you use cheese in? You know what I'm saying? Number 17, tomato powder. Same concept. You can use tomato powder in a variety of different things. We've actually even used it, believe it or not, to thicken up the vegetable stew that we'll get into the vegetable soup mix. You can thicken it up with the tomato powder. It tastes good for freeze dried, and it's relatively cheap. Number 16, chili mix. Again, uh, personal preference. Some people don't like chili. I happen to like a good chili. Now, son, I've had really bad chili too, but I do like good chili. When you get hold of some good stuff or somebody that knows what they're doing when it comes to cooking, man, it's a great meal and it feeds a lot of people on the cheap. Number 15, black bean burger mix. Until I tried this one, I was kind of on the fence on this, right? Because it's black bean, but it's a burger mix. You can make patties and stuff out of it. Calorically speaking, you're going to get about the same result as if you threw ground beef down there, but it's a heck of a lot cheaper to stack. It may be healthier. I actually don't know. It seems like it would be. It's not made by Gates and Company, so there's that. It is actually black bean. Number 14, peanut butter powder. Man, y'all know how I feel about peanut butter powder, right? And if you're on a very strict budget, or you just run into just a silly, stupid deal at a local Walmart or something on powdered peanut butter, maybe there's a closeout at Kroger or whatever, buy that instead. All right. However, Augustin Farms, they have a legit peanut butter powder. It does last a little while and it's reasonably priced. Okay. So because usually what I'll run into in the grocery store, excuse me, is the peanut butter powder, the powdered peanut butter is usually a lot more expensive. And I'm gonna say that's because of the shelf life. So in most cases, for us, it makes more sense to order it on Amazon through Oxen Farms because again, the Amazon Prime, they ship it for free. A few days later, it's here. So number 13, sliced strawberries. Number 12, whole raspberries. And number 11, whole blueberries. These 3 I kind of grouped together because there's a 30-year shelf life on this stuff here. Um, Plus you can mix it into a lot of stuff. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is the oatmeal and the cereal that you can get through Oxen Farms, but I mean, you can eat this stuff just straight up. Number 10, banana chips, which I think Yeah, banana chips. Um, 2 pound 1 ounces. So you're getting 22 servings, complete servings of this. 10-year shelf life. So shelf life not as good as the other fruits, but again, I personally prefer that over the other fruits. I mean, that's just me, but I'm a nutcase, right? Number 9, potato gems. Potato, again, is one of those multi-use deals. You can use it in so much stuff. You can make so many recipes with potatoes, and they're cheap. You know, they're cheap if you go buy them in a bag somewhere, but they're also cheap if you buy them through auction farms. They're gonna give you the shelf life, right? Number 8, creamy white cereal. It's it doesn't sound great, okay? This is one of the things you gotta doctor up a little bit. Maybe you got some cocoa powder sitting around, or maybe you wanna put some honey and some dried fruit into it or something like that. Maybe a scoop of powdered peanut butter, but it's really not bad. Once you doctor it up, as my wife says, doctoring it up, it tastes pretty good. You know, it this one reminds me of ramen noodles. Ramen noodles on their own, no seasoning or anything, who wants to eat that? But you can doctor up ramen noodles in different ways and make a pretty decent meal out of it on the cheap. That's very important. Number 7, teriyaki rice, vegetables, and beef. So Oxen Farm sells the number 10 cans with this meal in there, lasts 25 years. It is a little more expensive than if you're buying like banana chips, for example, but it's a complete meal. You can throw a piece of bread or something down with it and you're good to go. Number 6, cannot recommend this one enough. Vegetable stew. Not only does the vegetable stew taste good, and again, you can put the tomato powder in there to thicken it up, but you can add whatever meat you want. Yes, Dynamite, you can even add squirrel as long as the squirrel I would cook it ahead of time and get the gamey taste out of it, but you can throw, venison in there if you got some beef sitting around. You can make a meal, kind of a hobo stew. You know what I mean? Whatever you got laying around that's edible, uh, again, even down to the squirrel, you can throw it in there. You can make a decent stew out of it. Um, I highly recommend that you're also prepping spices and things like that if you're going to be doing a lot of stews. That one, though, vegetable stew at number 6, it is very, very cheap to stack through Augustin Farms. There's a decent shelf life. And from time to time, we actually just open one up and we'll use it because once you open it up, I think it has a 1 year shelf life. If it's just sitting on the counter or closed with the lid. So every so often we'll go through some just because it's convenient. Number 5, powdered butter. Many different ways to do butter. But again, getting back to convenience for a second at number 5, it's very inexpensive to stack it through Oxen Farms. You're going to get a decent shelf life and you're going to need butter in order to cook and make things taste good. Number 4, as we talked about earlier this week, Tang. Now, Augustin Farms, they call it Orange Delight, but I'm telling you, it's Tang. Somebody needs to put this in the laboratory up against Tang and then start suing or something. You get almost 6 pounds of this stuff in the canister, and it gives you 30 years shelf life. This stuff will vary in price. I've seen it almost $20. I've seen it as low as like just below $10. So this is one of the ones that you really have to watch. And quite frankly, I told y'all I had enough for a battleship or something here. And that's why we'll keep an eye out on it. And even though we don't need any more, if we see it drop down to $9.50, yeah, we'll order 3. Because why not? Everybody here likes Tang anyway. Number 3, buttermilk biscuit mix. I get that there are other ways to do it, and people, they're stacking their mixes and their, breads and things. But with the shelf life, with the convenience, you're adding water, you're mixing it up, and you're putting it on a heating source, and it's good to go. Um, it's not expensive through Oxen Farms. They They have different bread mixes and things, but the buttermilk biscuit mix, it just tastes good. You know what I mean? Especially if you've got the powdered butter to go with it, right? Number two, and this is going to sound like a weird one, but it's worth it. Cross-cut celery. They sell the number 10 cans of cross-cut celery. And the way I look at cross-cut celery, it's a filler. You know what I mean? You're taking a meal and you're supersizing it for pennies on a dollar, getting back to the vegetable stew for a minute. You throw some cross-cut celery in there to kind of bulk it up, a little bit of meat. This stuff is going viral at a campsite at that point. And it's so cheap to stack through Augustin Farms. And number one, our most favorite, and the one we have actually the most of, and this is like the eggs. We bought it when it was insanely dirt cheap. We had help again, text message. Oh my God, it's such and such. Bought it on the Zon. I ain't got no shame in that. Free shipping. Morning moves. So it's milk, right? Morning moves, powdered milk. They have both chocolate and they have regular, and I think we have more chocolate than the regular, but we do have a lot of both. 4.5 pounds worth in each number 10 can. They last 20 years. So not only are you getting more bang for the buck as opposed to buying powdered milk at your local store, it's going to last you a lot longer sitting on a shelf somewhere. And this is the main reason that we stock up on it every single time we see it go on sale. Although it hasn't been on sale in a while. Uh, Dairy shortage or something. I don't actually know. But two things that I'll throw in here before we close it out. Number one, avoid the honey. With Oxen Farms, it says I think it says sugar and honey mix. It's like 90% sugar, just powdered sugar, with honey flavoring, so it's not really honey anyway. A lot of people get that wrong, they'll order a bunch of it. You would rather have raw organic honey, and a lot of you have prepped that. And another thing to add, especially if you're going through Amazon, I'll link it down below. They take EBT. A lot of people don't know that, but you can use EBT cards. If that happens to be your situation, you can use that card online to get this stuff shipped to your house for free if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber. So anyway, let me know down below, what would you have not put on that list? What would you have put on the list? Is there a different brand that you prefer? I know there's several Mountain House brands, varieties that I actually prefer over Oxen Farms. But there you go. That's my top 20 lineup. Y'all take care and God bless.